This is John Rousey here on the John Oz Show. Today I have Steve Decker with me from All In Personal Training. Steve, how are you doing today?
Good, man. It's good to see you.
It's great seeing you, buddy. I'm happy to have you on here today. Um, we're going to
Yeah, it's
shift
an
gears, dude, and I appreciate you having you here. Earlier this week, we had Joe Cristiano and Joanna Sorella here talking to us about bodybuilding shows. We're going to switch gears today to powerlifting, one of my favorites. And here I have Steve. So, Steve, really quick, where are you from and what do you do?
So I'm in Niagara Falls, New York. I train people out of Elite Fitness up here. I do a lot of one-on-one training with general fitness clients and like some youth athletes, really more falling towards powerlifting and coaching powerlifters, prepping them for meets, that kind of thing. That's kind of become my niche. So I do one-on-one
Right.
training in the gym, and then I also offer remote coaching for that's just people that want to train out of their basements or whatever. They don't want to physically be in a gym for whatever reason. So a couple.
Right, dude, that's awesome. And I mean, like, if you're looking to do a powerlifting meet, like, Steve, what federation are you competing out of, or what federation is your clients competing out of right now?
Most of my clients do USPA meets, based on there's a lot. Adam Furchin, who also owns the gym, is one of the best meet directors around. I personally lift federations, so I've done a few XPS meets in the last couple of years, a few RPS. I pick a meet based on the director and if it's going to have what I want to use for equipment. I'm not really married to one.
Right. Now, you're saying equipment. What's the difference between raw and equipped lifters, right? We see guys go in there and they got like arm sleeves on and they got a bodysuit on. What? Tell us a little bit about that. What is that for?
First, just in terms of the meets, I was more referring to like the bars, the racks, the monolift, that kind of different thing, because things like the USAPL is going to have one stiff bar for all three lifts, and it's not going to change. They're going to use a squat bar, a power bar, and then a deadlift bar. They're all separate items. You're going to have to walk a squat out of a combo rack. Some of them you'll be able to use a monolift. So that's more what I was referring to. Cool question.
Okay.
Raw versus equipped lifting is basically belts, knee sleeves or wraps. You can use wrist wraps, and that's pretty much all you're going to get for supportive equipment. There's also then equipped powerlifting, where you're going to have support equipment such as a squat suit, a bench shirt. Some people will just deadlift in a squat suit. And then further beyond that, you're going to get more categories where this is what it sounds like is just one layer of equipment. Multiply, where there can be upwards 2, 3, even 4. Also a new thing called unlimited, where you're allowed to use like an elastic material with a souped up knee wrap.
When did they start doing that? Like, when did they start using that? Because, I mean, when I was doing powerlifting, I mean, I remember seeing guys, equipped lifters, but I've never even seen this. What does it even look like? What are we talking?
The unlimited, you really only see that in the bench shirts. It's not actually, but it basically looks like someone took like a supersized knee wrap and made a shirt out of it. Elasticity to it, they're super thick. It kind of sits on you like a, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like it's just a whole different world. I respect the heck out of the people that use them, because I've tried it once and I absolutely hated it. So that's definitely not my thing, at least not right now. And it's support,
yeah.
But it's only been in the last couple of years that that really showed up.
Yeah, I never got into the equipped lifting. I always liked the raw. Like I and some people might dislike what I'm going to say. If it's not raw, it's not real. That was always my take on it, because I've been lifting raw my whole entire life. I never put on a bench shirt, knee sleeves, or any of that stuff. I had like the Icurian knee wraps because I have a bad left knee. It's phantom knee pain, right? I mean, who likes to squat? Yeah, you're looking at him, right? That's why I was a bench only guy. But I mean,
I remember
realistically,
too.
that was the only thing. I like training hamstrings. That count for something, right? I mean, I like stiff leg deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, reverse hyperextensions. Yeah, I mean,
My knees have been shot since college because I was unfortunately really dumb and basically next to nothing, and I just ran and ran and ran until my patellar tendons were just shot. It's been a tough thing for me, and
jeez.
it's always been a workaround pain wise. So I feel you on
Right.
that one.
Do you do like a lot of box squats and like what are we using for a setup for like leg problems? Like say I got a knee or I got a hip problem. What would you recommend to somebody training their squat like for a powerlifting meet?
Absolutely huge on box squatting. Um, in in an equip lifting scenario, I'll here and just cycle it out in phases to make sure you're not losing the ability to squat to real depth and not turning it into my raw lifters. I normally give them a box for between 4 and 8 weeks after a meet, as far as like healing up inflammation and overuse and stuff that comes with just having knee sleeves and a belt sometimes. So it
Right,
depends on
right.
context for sure.
I mean,
But yeah, if you
right,
got someone with real bad knee, definitely be your savior, and it makes overall it makes recovery a lot easier.
right. So longevity in the sport of powerlifting is huge. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we see like a lot of rising athletes come in, compete, and then they disappear. Is that? Do you think that's related to injury, or we are like talking like the individual's drained from doing the meat prep? What do you think the factor is that goes into that?
It's gonna change from person to person. I mean, we're gonna look at the elephant in the room and say, okay, someone took a lot of drugs to get somewhere really, really fast. He couldn't keep up with it. A lot of times, people's muscles will get strong real fast, but their tendons and ligaments and everything don't. Other than that, I mean, some people are just they're super motivated. I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna get this record. That kind of mental high is over. They're like, well, this is boring. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done, or I'm burned out, or whatever. Sometimes it
Right.
might just be like well, I'm gonna find something new now, like training ADHD, like my body build this week. Next week I'm gonna do CrossFit, so
Right, right. And
definitely happens a lot.
yeah, I mean, I stopped away from powerlifting due to the fact that I started getting injuries. I mean, like I was sore, I was beat up. I mean, I was tired. I mean, I was sleeping a lot, I was eating a lot, I was super unhealthy, couldn't breathe. Walking up a flight of stairs, extremely hard for me. I mean, carrying a lot of weight on my frame was just incredible.
And that's something I try to avoid
Um,
with my lifters, at least the conditioning element of it. Like I want them out dragging theirs or at least walking regularly to try to make sure that they're not just, you know, I can lift a one rep. And it helps recovery too. So that's really huge. Is you want to get blood circulating, you want to keep your heart healthy. If your heart quits on you because you've got horrible cholesterol and you wind up with a heart attack. So
Right. That's true. I mean, people don't think about those things. I mean, talking about lifting methods, like what's a fan of the method that you like to use to train? Is it like progressive overload? Is it the conjugate method? What's your take on that?
in terms of myself, my clients, like what are we talking?
For your clients, say you got a client prepping for a meet right now. What are we training? What's my training regimen look like? I say I'm doing all three lifts, right? Squat, bench, deadlift. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do a meet. I don't know. I'm like 3, 4 months out. What are we doing?
Um, at that point, you're definitely dialing in specificity. So we're going to be a Duffalo bar for the first few weeks of a prep, and then you're going to wind up with a straight bar on your back every week. And the bench is the bench. We might have Swiss bar in there for an accessory or something, but it's going to be straight kind of thing. Deadlift, I might start them off the first few weeks with a deficit deadlift to build some starting power. We're on a deadlift bar from the floor, and training your competition lifts. Most of 4 days a week in the gym. Some are five. Some wind up being three due to scheduling issues and that kind of thing. So we just
Right.
work around what people need to do. Um, Most of my clients for powerlift bastardized version of 531. I
Okay.
find that most people have really good buy-in with that model that we use with it. Some people I do have on like a fully conjugate program where we're going to rotate in waves of dynamic work and that kind of thing. I find
Right.
conjugate is either conjugate when they've never touched a weight before and they have great buy-in and they love it and they learn really well. I have like terrible buy-in on someone that's been lifting for a few years and then they're like, oh, I don't know about this. I want to squat with a straight. So it really kind of depends on the individual. If their personality suits it, I think conjugates are, and I think it prevents injuries and keeps you in really good shape. But then something more of like a kind of thing with closer to competition lifts is easier to get buy-in with more advanced people. Kind of a continuum
Right.
with that. But then
Right.
again,
I mean, I
take a really advanced person that's bored rather than doing this lame like squat, bench, deadlift 3 days a week, blah blah blah. This is boring. Let's have
right.
fun and kind of rekindle an interest in the sport. That's also a good way to go because they're already technically like someone like yourself. You don't have to competition bench every week to get good at it. We could throw some.
Right.
You're going to get stronger. You're going to enjoy the training maybe a little bit more, and your technique is still going to be there because it's been there.
Right. I mean, I always was like, when I first started powerlifting, I was probably 16, 17. I really kind of started getting into programming for it. And like, all I did was touch straight bars because it's all we had. I mean, we had dumbbells, chains, and straight bars. We didn't really have like a lot of hammer strength equipment or like machines. And like, even for that, I wouldn't even touch a machine unless it was like the preacher curl machine. Cause we didn't have like the pad set up at the gym. You know what I mean? Uh, so that was basically it. And I just wound up going off of like basically pyramidization. I'd go up by a percentage every week. I'd have like 2 days where I was going to be like, I'm going to squat 2 days, or I'm going to bench 2 days. And like I deadlift like once a week. But it'd be a heavy deadlift, and it would be like, find your 1 rep max every workout, which I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? And I learned through.
Wheels there, right?
Right. It's trial and error, and I'm like, dude, I feel sick, my CNS is shot and I don't understand why. Or just not able to make a lift every week. I felt like I was getting stalled until I got a little bit older. And I started doing some research into it. And then I started following like Franco Colombo because I wanted to look good at the same time. So I did like the power building type thing there. And it did great for me. And then I found out there's more to life than power building. You know what I mean? You know, um, when we talk about, we see a powerlifting meet, right? We want to sign up. How do I sign up with the powerlifting meet? Like, would you help me out with that? Like, I come to you as a client. Hey, listen, I want to do a powerlifting meet. How do I sign up?
For the meet itself, it's just going to be going online and registering for it. In terms of, I really want people to give me some sort of a base building season before they dive into trying to peak for a meet. They're like, okay, there's this meet in 8 weeks that I want to do, and I haven't had a coach before, blah blah blah. Of like, I don't know anything about you. I can
Right.
read what's on paper, what you claim your max is on paper, but I don't know how you're going to respond to volume. I don't know what you've been doing. So I really like to have a couple months of prep work before that, stresses and where their weaknesses really lie and that kind of thing before peaking. And then in a perfect world, weeks to run a peaking program.
Right. Now, so Louis Simmons, right? I love Westside Barbell, so I'm going to throw this out there. Dude says, big is big and strong is strong. Do you think that's true?
I mean, absolutely. And if we're talking about the same thing, I mean, I have bodybuilders that I can outlift at 180 pounds, and then there's people that are pounds, and he's out totaling people that are 308ers. So
Right.
they're not necessarily the same thing at all. I probably probably looked stronger when I was bodybuilding than I do now. Just, visible muscle. Are like, oh, you must be really strong. And I was like, oh, maybe for my size, but not really versus now,
Right.
obviously.
So that gives the small people hope, right? Like you say, well, I can't do powerlifting meet, or I can't do powerlifting meet because I'm too small, or this and that. You never know until you try.
And you don't know who's going to
And I definitely,
show up either. You have
that's
no idea. I
exact.
remember
Yeah.
the first meet that I signed up for, I was a big baby about it, and I'm pretty good at this, and I would probably get just absolutely wiped out if I tried to do a full meet. It was the longest meet I've ever seen in my life. It was like 12 hours long, and I sat there the whole day like, I would have won. All the people in my class, I would have out squatted. I had no idea though. I was just like, you go in, and so ever since then, I was like, I regret this. Like, why didn't I just go for it?
Right, right, and it's funny because I think a lot of people hold themselves back. They'll say, "Well, I can't do that," or "I can't do this," and they'll like, "I'll spectate." I'll
I gotta do
spectate.
this number, yeah.
Right, and they never do it. They never go through with it. You know, what I mean, they get cold feet.
Yep.
I've always been the type of person, whether you're competing in bodybuilding or powerlifting, even CrossFit. Uh, the first step that I'm going to tell you is sign up. And the reason why, if you sign up, you're making that commitment,
Oh, you gotta swing the
and you're
screws.
less
Sure, yeah.
right, right, because a lot of people won't
So I
pull the
went up to
trigger
my
on you.
first body.
Is it really?
Yeah, my first show, I went and I spectated at the whatever the fall one is, the Olympus, I think. And I was texting a friend of mine, and I was like, "This is pretty cool." Like, I walked into the gym the next day, and like 10 people were like, "Oh, I'm so excited for your show, man! This is gonna be awesome." What the? So I guess she went and told everyone that I'd already committed to it and signed up for
Oh,
a spring show, and now because I'm not gonna look like an idiot. So all of a sudden, a few months later, I was standing on stage. I'm like, how did I get here?
but you know what? When you're pushed into it, you feel great, right? Well, you're nervous at first, but when you're doing it,
You're
you're like,
nervous,
"Yeah, I'm doing it."
you'll never be more motivated in your life.
Right. And you're going to be kind of nervous. I think that's the biggest thing. You're always going to be nervous. And that's good. I think nerves are great because it means that you want it and you want to do it. If you have no emotion doing it, I think there's a problem, right?
Yeah, I've done probably 30 meets now, and I mean, my last one, I was like, it was just that good kind of nervous energy.
Right. Right.
Focus is
I mean, like, now during powerlifting, because bodybuilding and powerlifting are way two opposite sides of the spectrum. Can I eat whatever I want during powerlifting? Dude, I loved pizza. I went to Crosby's like every day when I was doing my powerlifting meet. I got 2 slices. I think handful of pizza logs. I don't drink soda. But I mean, like maybe a Gatorade or a protein shake with a Metrics bar or something like that. I mean, what are we eating for a powerlifting meet?
in a perfect world. I'd like people to eat like bodybuilders only. In reality, that doesn't usually happen. I found for myself though, if I eat garbage like that, my performance goes down because I just feel terrible. And like
Right.
I'm pretty sensitive to if I eat too much crap and like even like dumb stuff. Like if I take Sudafed for 2 days in a row for my allergy, I try to eat pretty clean, like around the clock. I'll have cheat meals on the weekends with that, but for the most part, I eat really, really clean foods and just more of it than I would if I was bodybuilding.
Right, right. I mean, as I got older, as I'm getting older, I'd like to say, I did notice that I have cleaned up my nutrition like a whole lot. I'm not eating like a bodybuilder nor a powerlifter. I'm kind of just doing like functional fitness. I want to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look good. But I still love my pizza, man. I mean,
Yeah,
once in a while,
you can't
late,
totally deprive yourself, and unless you're real worried about making a weight class, throw fun stuff in there too. Just can't do the
right?
majority of it.
Right. I mean, the late night ice cream, diving into the freezer, putting some stuff together in the kitchen like peanut butter, chocolate, uh, ice cream. Yeah, if I use PB2, is that okay?
In moderation, right?
No, I'm on a peanut butter kick. I use PB2 and I take honey. So I found a company out in Boston. It was like 70, $80 for like 10 pounds of honey. And it's like unpasteurized, so it's great. You know what I mean? So I eat that with
Drive
my
down the road and get
PB2,
there,
and then
right?
right. I saved some money by ordering in bulk. I thought, but I'd rather do that. So really quick, I know you're not doing any meets anytime soon. Tell me, when we were talking earlier before we jumped on before the interview, you said you got an injury. What were you doing, and what's your road to recovery on that right now? Like, what are you doing actively in the gym if you're training at all? What's your recovery like?
So I had kind of the MRI showed that I had a complete quad tendon rupture, and weeks it. The doctor opened me up, and I guess was just baffled because there was a whole layer of tendon. So he wound up actually cutting that, so the whole thing would be the same length. They stretched it back to where there's three anchors in my patella now that are basically holding the tendon in place while it fuses. So I'm right about 3 weeks post-op now.
Okay.
So I haven't formally started PT, and I've been in this industry long enough time to kind of know what I'm doing. I'm doing a little bit of stuff on my own, just very light stretching. I'm doing quad pump or quads. I've been getting on the reverse hyper. My upper body training really hasn't changed at all. Bench work and all that kind of stuff. I just have one leg stuck out on a box, so I'm not pushing off of it. Body days is basically pistol squats, single leg curls, single leg extensions, and then. But as far as like my training schedule, it really hasn't changed at all.
Right.
Next
Right.
week I get to open my brace up a few more degrees. Right now they've given me 30 degrees of range of motion to play with. 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I'll open it up to 90. And I'll have 2 weeks there for my understanding. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then the PT will start to kind of intensify after that.
Right.
12 and 18 months to be fully recovered. Like you're 100% good to go. You feel like yourself and confident in that kind of. So it's going to be a long road.
Right. Now, Steve, here you go. You don't even have to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you plan on in the future hitting the platform again?
Absolutely. Yep. I don't
Okay.
know if I'll be right back where I was, but I'm absolutely going to be on a platform in some capacity. It's just a matter of when and what capacity I'll be at that point. But
Right.
Yep, that's the goal.
What motivates you, man? I mean, like realistically, when you do powerlifting, what motivates you? Like, if you could say anything to anybody about training, powerlifting, competing in general, what would you say to one of your athletes or yourself, like some self-talk that's going to keep you in the game?
In terms of post-injury or just in general?
In general, post-injury, I mean, you're talking about making the comeback to do something that you did that you got injured doing, but you're going to come back to it anyway and do it. I know that's a passion, right? I mean, that's drive, that's determination. But what is it for you that moves you?
It's just fun, man. I love the camaraderie of training with my crew that I get to go see a few times a week, and it's just hard to me at this point. Like, if I didn't have my Friday night squat night, I literally don't know what I would do. I just something I don't know.
Right.
This is gonna sound kind of obnoxious. Today, some of the guys at a different gym were talking shit, saying that I'm never gonna power lift again, and I'm kind of a stubborn oaf, and I'm like, well, now that I heard that, we're definitely going back on a platform.
Right. Right. Prove them wrong, man. That's exactly it.
And like, there's always times where you don't feel motivated. When there's less, you might feel sick, you might have nagging, tendonitis and stuff adding up, and at that point, isn't the driving factor. It's being consistent and being a matter of habit. Like, I'm in this day at this time, and no matter what's going on, unless like the world ended, I'm going to be there and doing. So there's definitely phases where it's like, no, I really don't want to do that today. I had no inclination to get out of bed and did it anyway because that's what I do.
Right, right. I think that's huge. I think powerlifting is actually really great for camaraderie. Yeah, I mean, like everybody's supportive. Maybe there's a guy in your weight class from across the country or something like that that doesn't like you, but I think they don't want you beating their numbers or their record or whatever the case is. But for generally most part, going to the powerlifting meets, everybody's rooting for each other. I mean, everybody wants to see each other do well and make the lift, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've seen.
Wish we had more of these days though. Is like people training in crews and groups getting together and everyone train each other and hand off and side spot and all that kind of stuff. And like I see a lot of people that just want to train alone. They want to be all dark and brooding and nobody talk
But
to me and that kind of thing. Like no, like this is supposed to be fun. You're rich off of winning like the USPA Western New York Championship. Like enjoy with your friends, pal around, talk shit to each other. You know, that
right.
should be part of it, in my opinion. Everyone.
I mean, and we all have different places that we've been for lifting weights. We all have our own rationale why we're on our fitness journey, right? Like everybody has their reason why. Maybe you enjoy it, right? Maybe it's a stress relief, or they're doing it because they want to compete, and it's that single sport. I think training with my hood up, with my headphones in at the gym, that's great and all. But I think a lot of these people are watching too many Instagram videos or YouTube videos, and they see these guys that are, professional athletes that are in the zone, and they don't talk to people, and they're pretty much mute. But then you're gonna go take the headphone out and say, "Right, I need a spot though." Like they'll take the headphone out for a spot, and then they won't talk to that individual again, which I think is pretty strange, because we're social by nature.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
I was definitely like that though. I got sucked into that rabbit hole when I was bodybuilding because like you're moody. You're just like, don't talk to me. I put my hood up. I don't want to be anywhere near you people. And then it becomes like it's almost like the more dark and brooding and angry you are, like the better you're going to do at your show or something. I don't know.
I believe. Right. I believe the best bodybuilders are the individuals that just had a breakup. They're mad at the world.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're gonna put
hate everything, and yeah, you're not wrong there at all.
No, I mean they're some of the greatest. Let me think. Powerlifting. So really quick, I'm not going to eat up too much more of your time. Looking at the time we got 28. So what I'm going to ask you really quick, let's talk really quick about bands in powerlifting. Okay, we see bands. I'm talking about Red Minis. We've seen the Red Monsters. We've seen different various bands. Talk to me a little bit about band tension versus the chains in the gym. That's going to be a question. I know that. If people want to know.
It's a whole deep end topic. First of all, we brand new pair of bands to stretch. This drives me nuts. I'll buy brand new pairs and then all of a sudden face pulls every day with them, and I'm like, now they don't work for what we needed them for. It drives me bonkers. So please just use the old one. That's my spiel. But at any rate, bands are basically used as accommodating resistance. So they're trying to help you move the weight faster against the force curve. So say you're benching against your bar weight's going to stay the same. It's just bar weight. Your band tension is going to be lower at the chest. The curve is stronger. You've got more tricep power. It's teaching you to get through your stick point by just pushing. Chains essentially do the exact same thing, just in a little bit different way. Use chains for a longer period of time, and they don't beat me up as bad. Whereas if I use a lot for a few weeks, because it really tends to beat up the nervous system and the joints more, at least in my experience.
Right. No, I'd have to agree with you on that. I feel that. I know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Plus chains and look cooler too. So you definitely want to do that.
Right. I
The
mean, you always want to
big
use
key with smart and people. This is
right.
my constant thing. Is I have saved YouTube links of do it this way. This is why, and it's just like as soon as I put it in a program, it's just like boop, that goes off, and like exhausted of trying to be like, okay, well your chains aren't supposed to be like this, they're supposed to be like that, and this is why. Two thing is just making sure that you're using them in the right way, so you're getting a significant deload at the bottom, the top, so that there's a lot of change there. Versus people want to set them up and just like drape them over the bar and then around there.
Right.
It might look cooler, but you've accomplished basically nothing by doing so. People need to understand the concept behind it.
I think being loud in the gym is key, though. Sometimes, you just go to the gym, make some loud noise, have the chains on there. Everybody looks at you. You have your headphones in. You don't really care, right? You're in the zone, right? I'm just joking. No, I like the band tension, but I do like to alternate the chains myself. I haven't done any band tension. Dude, I feel beat up most of the time, so I do some lightweight. I pump.
Yeah.
I am a great A pumper, man, right now. Like, all
I will
jokes
say I
aside.
find squatting against bands is really helpful to me. Like I squats and given my own devices, and then as soon as like I see a band, I accelerate so much better. Be a micro mini or it could be a strong band. In either way, I'm going to move
Yeah,
significantly faster. That works really in the habit of keeping the band too long because it'll almost turn into a Smith machine of balancing or stabilizing yourself. It's almost turning into a guide rod and you're just pushing against something. So it turns into a leg. People need to get away from doing too much of before a meet.
right. Okay. I mean, like, let me ask you this. So, like, I have I do my box squat. I have banded. I do banded squats with a safety bar, right? Safety squat bar with band tension. And I go when I touch my butt to the box. Am I supposed to put my hips back, or is it just a touch and go?
I like my clients to sit way back into their hips, load the hamstrings, the adductors, the glutes way on the box, and then come back off of it with some real power to it. Otherwise, people
Right.
get into this habit like they just plop down. They have this horrible jarring motion on their spine, and then they try to stand back up and everything. I definitely like to see like the west side version of box squatting where you're sitting way back and opening the hip.
Right. Because I mean, the hips are going to help you with your squat. I mean, hands down. Yeah. I mean, I think a
Even
lot
as
of
a raw squatter, I was always really hip dominant, so that's always been huge for me.
right. I think I've seen the videos from like Westside Barbell, and those guys when they squat in the box, they'll put like a memory foam pad down. I'm not too
Mm-hmm.
sure if it's called memory foam, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we use like a truck that came
These
out of it, like I don't know, like an '82 Buick
a couch
Seat or
cushion.
something. I don't know what it is. Well
Yeah.
over a decade.
I mean, somebody was telling me a
I did
story.
try to
They
use a
they went
couch
out to
cushion.
Ohio. What was that?
I did when I got rid of my old hat to box squat with, but it wasn't really doing anything. It was just like a visual aid. You would just sit down to it and land completely. So you definitely have to find something a little bit more dense than that.
Yeah. I agree, man. Especially sitting on a box with some heavy weight on your back. You don't want to be sitting on a piece of metal. Yeah, it doesn't feel the best, you know. All right, Steve. Listen, I'm not going to cut you any longer. Just due to the fact that I don't want to eat up your time. I would love to have you come back on the show again, so we have a little bit longer. Kind of go over some other things like meat prep. We'll talk more repetition, stuff like that. If you'd be interested, come back on.
Oh,
And we can
absolutely.
definitely
Yeah, let's do it.
yeah, dude, awesome. And I appreciate you having you on here today. Next week, I'm going to have James. He's from the Adirondacks. He'll be coming on here to speak with everybody. He's a podcaster and he is an author of a book, personal trainer, coach, family guy.
Oh, someone
Guys,
that
I can't
knows
wait until next week.
how to actually speak on camera instead of me just mumbling.
No, no, You know what? See, I'm going to tell you like this. The very first time I got on here, I was extremely nervous. I was like talking to myself. Because, I wasn't doing an interview. I mean, my very first one, I'm like sitting here talking to a camera. And I don't talk to a camera on a daily basis. I mean, maybe I talk in the mirror in the morning, like, I can't believe I have another day to go through this. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. No, just kidding. I do some positive self talk. In the morning, that's the only time I really talk to myself in the mirror and in the car when somebody's driving in front of me. Yeah, I mean,
That's a whole different
but
story.
I feel like I'm getting better with this. I mean, the interviews in the future will definitely be better, and I definitely appreciate having you on here with me today,
Well,
buddy.
thank you very
Really,
much. I appreciate the
and it's
opportunity.
great catching up.
Yeah, you
All right,
too.
you guys have a wonderful day, Steve. I'll talk to you soon. All right,
Sounds
buddy.
good. See you, John.
Yep. Bye.